Ticket to Life. This is Henrie. I hope everyone's having a good day, good afternoon, wherever you are. So I have a very, very special guest today. But before I start that, did you know that stats are showing that we will have 1.75 million stay-at-home dads this year in 2022? Now, talking about staying-at-home dads, that's my guest today is Kyle Stewart.
Hey, guys.
And he's going to tell us just a little bit. And one of the main things let's hear a little bit about him, where he comes from, what he's doing, and then the importance of staying at home with his kids.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Kyle Stewart. I'm a stay-at-home dad. It really was never in the plan, though. Like, as I'm growing up, going to school, doing all my stuff, thinking like I'm gonna be a stay-at-home dad, I would have never imagined it. If you're a stay-at-home parent, you know what I'm talking about. It gets kind of crazy at home. It is definitely a job. It is definitely a lot of work. But yeah, kind of how we got started with it was, like I said, not planned. Me and my wife got married. We dated for 6 years, I think. We met in middle school. And then we got married in college. And so she's 2 years older than me. So,
an older woman.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So she was actually teaching when I was still finishing school, like when we got married. And so, 3 months into getting married, we got pregnant. Not planned. We tried to prevent it. Birth control does not work. Absolutely not. But I was still in my master's when she had our first son.
Oh, wow.
And so I was doing full-time online and had a part-time job, and she was working full-time in the school. And so that's kind of how it got started, with me being a stay-at-home dad.
Okay, how hard was that for you to make that decision?
You know, it was a really difficult decision because there is a big stigma around guys staying home with their kids.
Yeah.
It's just not what people have done before. It's just out of the ordinary. And so for a lot of people, it was like, wait, really? Like, your wife's going to be paying the bills? I still brought in plenty of the money, but isn't that the goal? Isn't that awesome when your wife can make more than you and you just kind of compete for the top notch?
That did not happen in our case.
But, yeah, so it's kind of taboo for a lot of people, but it helped that I was still, like, finishing school and stuff like that. But me and my wife, really, the thing behind it is that even before my wife and I got married, is we decided that if we were going to have kids, we wanted to be the ones to raise them.
Good.
So we didn't want, like, daycare, or my wife's a school teacher, but we don't even know if we want our kids in, like, public education, because it really is, like, teachers are doing a lot of the influencing and a lot of the raising in school. I mean, they spend, 7-8 hours a day with your kids, and you get them when they're waking up in the morning, and you get them at the worst hours of the evening when they're tired and it's time to go to bed.
Right.
And so we wanted to do that. And so when we had our son, it was kind of just made sense for me to be the one to do that while she worked. And it's just kind of gone from there.
Kind of fell in place. Well, my daughter was a teacher, and then they decided, she got married and decided to start her family. Well, when they did, then being at home, she's staying at home now. She's thinking just like me. She's thinking about homeschooling. So I think
it is the world is a very crazy place.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I know we can't shelter them from everything, but you can teach them a lot more virtues and right from wrong, and
especially in those formative years,
yes.
like those early years where they can't really determine for themselves what is truth and what is not, what is right, what is wrong.
Yep.
It's like, if you want your kids to be raised a certain way, you kind of got to be the one to do it.
I agree. I do agree. So tell me, how was it for you guys in the pandemic?
So the pandemic was interesting. I was actually looking for another position, like another part-time position. And so I was about to be hired somewhere. And so we had dropped the lease on our apartment, and we were moved in with my wife's parents it was just supposed to be like a month in between the month and getting this new job in a house. And the pandemic hit right when our lease was up, and like right when we had moved into her parents' house, and it was like the job didn't work out, everything kind of crumbled. So it was a total mess. So we ended up staying with my in-laws for a full year in the middle of the pandemic, which turned out to be a blessing because at the early COVID, everyone was stuck inside and bored and lonely, and so you kind of get a community. As annoying as it is living with in-laws, it's still...
My son lived with us, so did my daughter. But
I mean, it's
true.
it's just different, and so, but it made it nice because during COVID, you
had family there, you could go outside in the backyard.
Exactly, and it's not just you and your spouse. I don't think spouses are meant to spend 24 hours together.
No, they're not. Not to make a marriage work.
No, and so having some other people in the house kind of offers different conversations and different, different things.
That's God's hand.
Yeah, for sure.
That happened, and you were going to be something.
For sure.
Going to be homeless, like, oh, we don't have a place to live.
Exactly.
So,
and living with your parents is always financially smart for a short period of time. You get to save.
Yes.
Put a big down payment on a house. I mean,
there you go.
It works. Yeah.
Okay, so wondering, out of being home all this time, what are your obstacles? What are things that you have, to deal with, like doing, because you have another job.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. We have two.
Yeah.
So, what's the biggest obstacle, having babies, because you have two sons, correct?
Yes, I have a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old. Right now, and I have a few businesses and then a separate job, and it's just timing. Like if we made the conscious decision that we are going to be the ones to raise our kid, that also means that we're not going to let Coco Melon and Mickey Mouse raise our kids. As easy as that is, and as much as the kids love to just watch TV, it's just trading one for another.
Right.
Like, if we're going to let the TV raise our kids, then might as well put them in daycare, and I can work on a lot more stuff and be more productive, right? And so it's just timing. It's being able to time, like, spending that quality time while maintaining a household, a career, businesses. It's a lot. It's a lot to juggle with, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is how we raise our kids. Because I know a lot of people, when you get to the end of your life, you're not going to think, like, I should have put in some more hours at work, or I should have grew that business bigger.
But you're making that family unit.
Exactly.
And because dads usually are at work.
Yeah.
So you're making an impact.
For sure.
Which is so good, because dads usually, not all dads, but dads usually aren't home.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I'm glad I found you, because I think a lot more dads need to try to stay home if it's possible, or if they want to. Now, next question. Are there any regrets?
So there's always those bad days that you're like, what am I doing? Like, what in the world have I got myself into? Because I also am not, before our sons were born, I wasn't like a kid person. Like, I didn't change a diaper before my son. Like, none of that stuff happened. And so I'm still, like, new to this potty training and, like, disciplining and making a kid eat and, stuff like that. Just the day-to-day raising a kid. Like, it's all new to me. And so, on those hard days, it's like, what are we doing?
And as many have said, one of the hardest jobs in the world will be a stay-at-home parent.
Yeah,
and I don't think people realize how hard it is, because I think that when I was at home with my kids and my daughter, people think you're literally watching TV.
Yeah.
The kids are watching TV, and it's not that way at all.
No.
Not if you are trying to be the parent to raise them, as you said. So, okay, so let me see. Now, tell me about your businesses.
So we breed teacup Yorkies. So we have like a dog breeding business. I actually bred miniature dachshunds when I was in high school and college, and it paid for my college education. Oh, wow. It's a really good. If sometimes dog breeders have stigmas on them, and rightfully so. Some of them mistreat animals and are just like bad people, right?
Right.
But if you do it right and you raise like good pets that produce good pets for other families, it really is something cool that you're able to bless people with. And so our Yorkie business has kind of exploded, and it's kind of like it's a lot. It's probably it is the breadwinning money of the family right now.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and so we have 6 females and 1 male. They don't all live with us. We have kind of a cool method of doing this. We look for someone that's wanting a dog, wanting a family pet, and we buy the family pet for them, and then we breed that dog a few times to our male. They raise the dogs, and we sell the puppies and give them a kickback. And so it's not like a kennel at all where we have like 6 dogs and 5 kids and this
and I'm
and
gonna
that.
see you on the news and like, I know him.
Exactly. That's how you get diseases and all kinds of stuff. And so that's what we do, and we're opening a snow cone business.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. It's like a gourmet snow cone shop with all kinds of candies and stuff coming out of them, and it's gonna be really cool.
Okay, so do you want to reveal where you live so people will know? What's up to you?
Yeah, we're right outside Dallas, right here in Texas.
So are you going to be able to like rent? Like, are you going to have like a food truck with?
It's going to be like a food truck. We're going to start with a few just at local pools and stuff, and then we have a bunch of teenagers that are eager to get to work.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. It'll provide a good monthly income and, jobs for the community and all that stuff.
Okay, so here is a big surprise that I'm going to let the listeners know. You're amazed by him already staying at home, working 2 businesses, but he does something even better than all that. Well, I can't say better, but pretty close to better. But, Kyle is
I'm a pastor.
He's a drum roll. He's a pastor. Sorry about that. He's a drink of water, and I'm like, drum roll. So tell us, how did you get involved in becoming a pastor, other than God guiding you there? But tell me, because you're so young, and that to me is amazing. I mean, how long have you been doing it? I want to know from the very beginning.
Okay, I'll start at the beginning. Yeah, so in high school, I grew up in church. I was raised in church. And so I've always been kind of around the church culture and everything. But when I left for school, I really felt like God laying on my heart, like, serve me, do ministry. But I really didn't want to. I was super interested in politics and, I have an entrepreneurial mind. So it's like, let's make some money. Let's do that kind of thing. And so I went and ran a few political campaigns right out of high school. One here in Kaufman County, and then one in Denton. So I went up to Denton to the University of North Texas, and I studied political science for a little while. But in the middle of doing all those campaigns and debates and stuff for these people, I would spend like days just knocking on doors, thousands of doors, talking about this guy who's going to change the world, and he's going to do all this stuff, and you got to vote for him, and all of those things. And at the end of the day, we all know politics. All that is just like hopes and dreams, and a lot of it's just the candidate just is trying to get power and money and whatever else.
Right?
Yeah, and so as I'm knocking on doors and going with these debates, promoting this guy, I'm very convicted, like, this guy's not going to change anything. He's not going to change the world. I mean, like, he has no power. He's nothing different than just an ordinary guy. And God really convicted me, and so I quit those campaigns. I dropped out of school, enrolled in seminary, and then started in ministry from there. My parents were super upset.
Oh no!
They couldn't believe that I had dropped out of my major. The campaigns I was working for were like, I didn't realize how much money was in politics till I got into it. But right out of high school, I mean, I was making tons of money doing these campaigns, and my parents were like, you are crazy. Like, you're going to be a pastor, you're going to be poor, you're going to be, all the stuff that comes with pastoring. And so I went to the church that I grew up in, who I was still going to. I told them like I feel like I'm called to ministry, and they let me start serving on staff. And I served at that church for 5 years, and then 2 years ago I left that church and became a church planter. And so now I plant churches in areas that don't have a ton of churches.
Okay. So that is, I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know if everyone knows what that is and how that works. And
yeah, so right now in America as a whole and in Texas, there's more churches closing every year than opening. Yeah, it's the last couple of years has been the first time, I believe, don't quote me on this, but in our history, in our country's history, that more churches are dying than opening.
Why?
Because people are just leaving the faith. People are just, of all faiths, people are just, well, we see it on the news. Everyone kind of does what they want. They make, everyone decides what their own truth is. And because if you pick your own truth, you no longer believe in a truth. The truth of Scripture. And so people are leaving the church in droves. And so in Texas as well, churches are closing left and right, and no one's planting churches, starting new ones. And so all while Texas is booming with growth.
Right.
So if anything, there should be like an abundance of more churches being added to Texas, not being taken away. Mm-hmm. And so with the growth, churches are dying, less people are getting into church, less people are being reached, less gospel is being shared, less people's lives are being saved. And so the idea of church planting is going into a community that doesn't have a ton of churches and starting a new church. Not a new belief system, not a new teaching, just a new group of people teaching the truth of Scripture. And so God called us specifically to Forney, to plant a church out here on the north side of Forney.
Now, how did she feel about all this? Like, what did she...
So,
are you insane?
Yeah, I mean, like, with all the businesses and all the, just the craziness, and being a pastor is pretty crazy. Like, it's a 24-hour job. There is never a day off. Holidays, you're not, I mean, like, people are always... needing you, sure, yes. And so that's part of the job. And so, but so is parenting. Parenting is a 24-hour job. So is running a business. If you run your own business, you understand it's not a 40-hour go home and you're done. It's a constant job. So all the stuff that we do is all the time. Teaching, even my wife, it's not a when the bell rings, bell to bell. It's before the bell, and it's weekends, it's evenings, it's all the time. And so, I mean, she has her thoughts about it. I have my thoughts about it. You know, it's a rough life, but I mean, if you think of what everyone is putting their time into something, right? So even if you're putting your time into a 9 to 5, you're coming home and you're putting your time into something, whether that's Netflix, whether that's just going to bed early. We're all putting our time into something. So it's like we're just choosing to put our time into things that we feel have eternal value.
Right. Now, do you have a big youth, or do you have teenagers come? And
we do, yeah. So
good.
Our church is like a year and a half old. We just planted it. We're starting to work on our second church plant that will be launching next year. Yeah, it's really cool. And so we have about 70 people, including kids, on a Sunday morning.
That's great.
And so we have community groups all throughout the week. We have 4 community groups right now. The youth meet at our house. We have about 15 teenagers that come over and hang out, and we do missions around the community. A lot of churches moving into the future are going to have to realize that we have to move beyond the walls of the church, beyond a Sunday morning. And so like one of our steps that we're doing is not every Sunday we meet in the building. Some Sundays we don't have a worship service or preaching. We go out and do service projects in the community.
Oh, that's awesome.
And worship Jesus that way. And so over the next years we'll see the morphing of the church. Those who are willing to change up a little bit and serve Jesus, the same God, just in different ways, are the churches that are going to survive.
I think it's great. I mean, like I said, you're pretty amazing for your age. You mind if I tell them how old you are?
Go for it.
He's not in his 30s, folks. He's only 26. That is insane. I think you're a blessing to so many.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing everything that you have. And
yeah,
you need to tell the dads they need to stay home.
Yeah, well, I will say something. I think that a lot of the problems in our society do have to do with the lack of dads and men in family. Like, even if you're not a dad that stays home, not every family is able to do that, and that's okay. But you know, the typical, like, I don't know if it's 50s dad or whenever it is on TV where, you know, the dad comes home from a long day at work, he sits in his recliner, he has his meal fed to him, he watches TV until it's time to go to bed, and never really pays attention to his wife and his kids. I feel like that is an extreme version of what still happens today. Like, the dad comes in, even though he is tired from working all day, you know.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, if we're going to have kids, we have to step up and be dads, because we see it all over the world. The lack of men in the household being willing to give their time and attention. There's big consequences to that. And so if people are going to have kids, be present. Right. You know, be there. Even if it's not 24 hours a day.
Oh, they can't see me. I'm saying thumbs up right now. Yes, thumbs up.
So yeah, if you're a dad listening, I would say let's step it up. I mean, we have our kids' lives are on the line.
Right.
I mean, their future is on the line.
And it's so important, I think, you know, because a lot of people have their kids involved in so many activities, which is great. But I think both parents need to be there or take turns.
For sure.
Because I even remember when my kids were growing up, they both played soccer, and a lot of parents, if you're out there listening, it was a long time ago, but they would just drop the kids off.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was the person that was always there much. But anyway.
Yeah, and listen, there's nothing more attractive to a wife. Very few things more attractive to a wife than a husband that is attentive to the babies. Like, true. If you're looking
Did you hear that, man?
If you're looking to spice up the love life, spend some time with your kids. Your wife will love it. I mean, come on.
Appreciate it so much.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's a lot of benefits.
Kyle, thank you so much for being here, and I hope all of you appreciate all that I have gotten from him today. And as I like to always say, have a great evening, a great day tomorrow. Love your family, and go find your blessing.